Hi, this is Keith, and this is video number 8 in my How the Government Should Work series. Today I'm going to talk about goals, measurements, and metrics. And essentially this is going to be the last of kind of the boilerplate videos. Next video I'll actually get into some meat of policies and things of that sort. But goals, measurements, and metrics are what science is built on. Science and engineering uses measurements and metrics and tracks them and uses the data to show progress and to find issues, correct problems, on and on and on. The government collects lots of data, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics captures lots of data on jobs and things of that sort. All the other agencies gather lots of statistics. But what I see is that presidents rarely ever use these statistics and this data to enhance their message, to reach out to the American people. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it. I'm going to try to go quickly. I hate long videos. But first chart, just kind of definitions. What are goals? What are measurements? What are metrics? Next chart is what's the benefit of using these things? Well, they measure the success of your policies and efforts. That's the very simple thing. If you set up the right goals and you set up the right measurements and metrics to measure those, to measure your progress towards those goals, you can measure your success of what you're doing. It communicates progress to the American people. It identifies issues early. If trends start going in the wrong direction, you've got a problem, you've got to figure it out and fix it. And probably one of the things that, as a president, I don't think they use it enough, is it focuses the cabinet secretaries on key policy goals and making sure that their agencies are moving towards those goals. This is just a simple chart to kind of give an example. So every president talks about jobs. They talk about wanting more jobs. And so one of the measurements that the Bureau of Labor Statistics keeps is jobs added. The total number of jobs per month is one of the things, and every month, at the end of the month, the news will talk about jobs added. This is a chart that kind of shows jobs added by president over the course of their term. And you can see Clinton rocked it, and George W. Bush didn't. And right now, the orange line, you can see the just horrible drop-off on jobs added due to the coronavirus and due to what we're going through right now. And that's something you hear a lot about. So presidents do use that. Usually when it's good news, they try to ignore it when it's bad news. We'll talk about that later. But the total number of jobs added per citizen is also a useful piece of information because population fluctuates, and so if you're just talking about total number of jobs added, if you don't know what the total population is doing, it's not that useful. So total number of jobs added per citizen is also an important metric that the Dr. Keith administration will use. Total number of jobs in the U.S. Again, the Bureau of Labor Statistics keeps that. Here's a representative graph from them. You can clearly see the upward trend from all the way back to the 1930s. You can see the 2008 financial crisis, the dip due to that, and then right at the end of the graph you can see a pretty bad drop due to what we're going through right now. Again, Bureau of Labor Statistics keeps this data, and presidents tend to use this data. Probably a more important piece of data because, again, population fluctuates. And so just looking at total number of jobs as the population is going up and up and up, again, doesn't tell you a whole lot. So the jobs per U.S. citizen, so you basically divide the number of jobs by the number of people in the U.S. and you get a chart that looks like this. They call it the employment rate. Again, Bureau of Labor Statistics keeps this data. I got this chart from a website, tradingeconomics.com. Came across it. You can find this type of graph in a lot of places though. And again, you can see that upward trend in total jobs looks a lot different. It's a lot more up and down because you're taking into account how many people are in the U.S. that need jobs. And so the interesting thing is, ever since about 2008, we really haven't recovered jobs as a percentage of U.S. citizens. It's not going in the same upward trend. And then again, you see at the end here, we're down, getting down into the 54% range, which is historically low employment rate right now. And so those are all statistics and measurements that a president should use to understand what's going on. And most of the ones I just talked about, they do use. The ones I would add as president in the jobs area is doing all those same statistics I just talked about, but also parsing it out as the jobs added that are more well-paying. And I'm going to pick $15 an hour just because that's the number that's bandied around a lot in the news and in Congress. So I'm just going to say jobs added that pay more than $15 an hour. And then I'm going to do all the same statistics on the ones that pay more than $15 an hour. I don't have that data. I haven't been able to find it. I predict it would be really interesting if you looked at the long-term trend of well-paying jobs. But we'll leave that for another day. The point of all this is, in the Dr. Keith administration, we're going to hold monthly data reviews, which sounds to the average citizen probably is the most boring thing in the world. And it is the most boring thing in the world. As an engineer for years, I've done this kind of thing over and over and over again for multiple projects. It's horrifically boring. It's incredibly revealing. And so doing that monthly is something I'm going to do. It's going to be open to the press and the public. Not for people to physically come, but it'll be on some kind of Zoom or some kind of internet access so the public can listen into these data reviews. The press is welcome, and most people will find it, again, boring, but transparency is the name of the game. You can choose to listen in on these, you can choose not to. The point is to use this meaningful data and metrics to manage the administration and achieve goals. And so these data reviews will be a lot of Secretary of Labor, show me your data. It doesn't look good. What are you going to do about it? Blah, blah, blah. And so you keep going on and on like that for each one of your key metrics. The point of all this is for each of the next topic areas I'm going to hit, they're policy areas. I've done a lot of what I call boilerplate, which is what's my ethics? How am I going to do the judicial selection process? How do I think the legislative process should go? Metrics, measurements. A lot of this stuff has been boilerplate. I'm going to get into policies, and I'm going to use this format to basically lay out the metrics. In each policy area, I'll talk about initiatives and things we're going to do, but then I'll also talk about the metrics we're going to track. And again, that's something that the American people should have at their fingertips. If the president's using these metrics, the people should have these metrics at their fingertips so they know what's going on. But next time, like I said, I'll talk about jobs next, and we'll get into policy areas and get into a little bit more detail. Again, I'm an independent, and I'm not voting for Democrats or Republicans anymore because I think they're failing in doing their jobs. I don't think you should vote for them either. Have a good day.